乔治亚在超级大国阴影下生存的镜头。
It's very confusing and unsettling to wake up and have only 72 hours to make that really hard decision to either leave your house or stay on the Russian-occupied territory.
Leave your house or stay on the Russian-occupied territory.
这个短语的含义是指一个人要么离开自己的家，要么留在被俄罗斯占领的地区，通常用于描述一个人的生活环境和政治局势。
Overnight, the border has been unofficially redrawn by the occupied forces. Your bedroom is now located in a different country, where your living room and kitchen are still in the country where you fell asleep. The borders are not marked, so you might end up being kidnapped or detained by the Russian-backed forces.
Kidnapped or detained.
这个词组的含义是指一个人被绑架或拘留，通常用于描述一个人的安全和权利。
Is that a reality for many people?
It is a reality for many people in Georgia. In fact, about 20% of Georgia is occupied by Russia. Georgia is not heard or seen in the world, and many don't even know the location of the country. It's important to know what is going on today in Georgia, because it happens in one region, but you never know when it's going to happen in your country or in your region, so we have to pay more attention.
Pay more attention.
这个知识点的含义是要更加关注某些事情或情况。惯用法是在口语中使用 pay attention to 来表示关注某事物。
I'm a Georgian photojournalist. I started taking pictures when I was 14. I was talking with my camera. It was like an intermediary of me expressing myself.
Intermediary of me expressing myself.
这个句型的意思是指摄影师通过摄影来表达自己的想法和感受。Daros Lakari 在这段视频中说，摄影成为他表达自己情感的一个媒介。
I had like a turning point when I did.
Turning point.
这个词组的含义是指一个人生命中某个关键时刻决定了他们的人生方向。比如说 Daros Lakari 在这段视频中提到，他做了一个关于切尔克斯难民的摄影项目，这个项目成为他人生的一个转折点。
Had like a turning point.
这个句型的意思是指 Daros Lakari 的人生中有一个关键时刻决定了他的人生方向。这是一个典型的口语俚语。
My first photo project on Chechen refugees. My great-grandmother was a Chechen woman, and I was always told stories about her. And during the time, there was the stereotype on Chechens in Georgia that they were all like criminals and terrorists, and I wanted to destroy the stereotype. When I finished the story, I got emails from people saying that, thank you for showing Chechens in a different way. And so I think that was the moment I realized what power photography had and how it can really change consciousness in people and let them think differently. From that moment, I concentrated on stories in my country that touched on taboo topics such as early marriages and conditions faced by mine workers, stories about minorities, post-Soviet healthcare system that created a pandemic of stolen babies, and how
Post-Soviet.
这个词组指的是苏联解体后的时代，它通常用于描述一个国家或地区在苏联解体后发生的变化和发展。
conflict with Russia led to the surreal border dynamics I described earlier. There's so many topics to cover in Georgia, and I feel like it's not been covered. By photographing these topics and talking about it, the dialogue starts, and I think from this dialogue, the change comes. One journey, I documented a 14-year-old boy telling the story about how he had to cross the occupied border onto the
Cross the occupied border.
这个知识点的含义是指穿越被占领的边界，通常用于描述危险或困难的旅程。
Russian-controlled territory to visit his ill grandmother. and kind of risking his life. And I went with him on this one trip that took us 4 hours to crawl, walk, hide, and cross the irrigation canals. We had to hide from both Russian-backed militants and also Georgian border police. It's really dangerous for especially journalists because they don't know where the border is. I could not make any mistakes or I would be detained by the Russian-backed militants. He symbolized for me our people's resilience because he loves his grandmother so much. He kind of killed the fear in him and took this road. I think it matters to not just be a photographer who goes there and leaves and never comes back, but to actually have this connection with the people. It's not just a story that's told by a photographer, but it's a story that's told by the people who live in Georgia. It's like an archive that will let the future generation also understand what it was like to live close to the occupied territories. Soviet Union tried to demolish our identity, but they couldn't manage because our roots are very strong, like traditions and culture and language. So I think it's very important to tell the story of my people. I want us to be heard.
恳请点赞，订阅我们的频道，一起学习演讲中的实用英语。